you think there's kind of like a different expectation on a team like the Diablo team or even a
Blizzard.
developer like Blizzard? Yeah, because obviously you're seen as one of the biggest developers in the world, but the thing that you're introducing is still quite new to you. But there's the expectation, well, this is Blizzard. They shouldn't be allowed to stumble or able to stumble. They should know this stuff. Like, how do you kind of like approach that sentiment knowing that there's no like pushing back against it?
I mean, I think it's just like we're all kind of just working our way through it. It's like there's, sure, we have a lot of benefits of being part of Blizzard, and we had a lot of learnings, and we were able to talk to each other and understand what's going on in WoW and what's going on in Overwatch, and we can talk to each other. But at the end of the day, this team is like doing a live service like this is new for this team, and even we have some D3 veterans and things, but a lot of our team like there's a good part of our team where Diablo 4, we were at the launch party where I was like, how many people, this is your first game ever? And like a bunch of hands go up and you're like, not, this is the very first game they've ever shipped is Diablo 4. And so there's definitely like the combination of experience and the ability to access Blizzard, but like we're still going to learn as we go. And so, yeah, I mean, I think I get the, hey, you're Blizzard, you should never make a mistake. But at the same time, like, again, the industry is always changing, the games are always changing, the players are always changing. So it's just going to be learning as we go. And that's why what I love about a live service is we can evolve over time. It's not a fixed state. And so that with each season, and we're going to support the game for years to come, is that we can evolve and learn as we go.
Hello, my name is Cheetahs. Today we will be going over my opinions as to why Diablo IV, the most recent Blizzard title, is a commercial success, but an industry failure. Let's start with myself and why my opinion matters at all. I am a former writer for Wowhead's Diablo IV theory crafting team, a games mechanics specialist in the official Diablo IV Discord channel, and I played a role in the theory crafting of many of the mechanics behind Diablo IV from release to Season 4. Additionally, I am a software engineer by trade with a fair amount of knowledge in UX design, systems design, and implementation. So let's get into it. The first reason as to why Diablo IV is a failure in the industry is the actual bones of the game, the core. It is an utter failure in the sense of system design, integration, and middleware. For example, early on in Season 0 to 3, tooltips outright lied to you. From the character stat sheet to the tooltips on items, even to this season, Season 8, they are releasing patch notes where aspects or items are reporting incorrect to their tooltips. Things like Warrior's Mighty Throw for barbarians was granting additive damage instead of multiplicative. This goes against one of the core principles of programming: have one data source to reference. Imagine how much of a nightmare updating this game is right now. Tooltips are not pulling data values from their database to properly display attributes of that object. As a software engineer, I could not fathom the pain of some of these QA engineers and developers, which is why Diablo 4 doesn't really have a gameplay QA team. They only test to make sure the game runs well enough to not crash for most people. We in the community often state, tooltips lie to you, when asked why interactions are not behaving as described. Following up with this, you also have the performance issues, at least on PC, where leaving town still makes you rubber band, where Diablo 4 is reinstating graphics drivers in between loading screens, as proven by the fact that I can have a YouTube video playing on my other monitor, and most load screens will freeze the video, but only keep the audio of the video running. This only occurs when a process interacts with the graphical drivers. Keep in mind, no other game does this on my PC. Not to mention the fact that Diablo 4 seems to never save graphical settings in between sessions. It is only until I researched into it that Diablo 4 has a settings file located in the documents folder that is created as read-only, an issue that has been known about since the launch of the game. Overall, it shows that novice programmers are behind the game, as Ferguson, the director of Diablo 4, bragged to an interview prior to the Season of Blood launch, for majority of the Diablo 4 team, this is their first major title, and it shows. Additionally, for some reason, they have you load the inventories and stashes of all of the players on your screen or in town, for some reason, which is a major reason why you have lag whenever you're joining parties or towns. Overall, if I were to give the backend and middleware infrastructure of this game a rating out of 10, I'd give it a 4.7. It's not the worst thing in the world, but my god. The second reason as to why Diablo 4 is a failure is that the seasons are not seasoning. Let me elaborate with a comparison. Path of Exile has set the platinum standard for the industry. Their seasons are often well thought out, properly engaging, and the gameplay loop allows for the seasonal mechanics to fit right in, often with most of them being added to the core game. Seasons like Delve, Sanctum, Harvest, Ascendancy, etc. have become staples to the game where if they were to be removed, it would lead to such a detriment that players would lash out. Compare this with Diablo IV, where many of their seasons are effectively borrowed powered systems, which Blizzard's other franchise, World of Warcraft, has learned an awful lesson with. For those who don't know, Diablo IV has been relying on more than half of their seasons on borrowed power systems. Borrowed power is mainly a temporary isolated mechanic that boosts player power without actually impacting the core of the game. The issue with cycling borrowed power is twofold. One, players get used to the playstyles and dopamine hits of large numbers. It is why we play these games in the first place. Assigning a temporary power that can 100x a player's damage on the top end, and then suddenly revoking it for new borrowed power systems, is just a terrible way to design a game. And it is likely why we are seeing further lack of player interest, at least on the front of sweatier players. But you may ask, what makes a good seasonal mechanic then? And it is quite simple. You do any of these three things: introduce a new permanent system, revamp existing systems, or add a new way for players to interact with the game that hasn't been done before. Diablo has done all three of these things. Season of the Infernal Horde and Season of Masterworking both introduce new ways to play the game that have both become permanent pieces to the game and are overwhelmingly positive changes to the community. Infernal Hordes introduced a new in-game farming mechanic that I actually enjoy more than any other. So we know for a fact that Blizzard can do this. However, seasons 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, and 10 all have borrowed power mechanics as their primary focus, 9 and 10 being confirmed via Blizzard's own roadmap, leading only seasons 4, 5, and 6 as non-borrowed power focused content patches. To be fair, some of these systems redefined a lot of builds. The one that comes to mind for me was the Picana Summoning Necromancer, which used the Picana Malignant Heart and thrusted Minion Necromancer into the meta, really for the first time since beta. But the issue still remains. 7 of the 10 seasons Blizzard has planned so far are too small, especially from a multi-billion-dollar corporation on a billion-dollar game. They played the development of this game extremely safe, which is why people have lost interest. The third reason why Diablo IV is a failure is that desired features are taking way too long to implement. Before you click off saying that I'm going to join the streamer and Reddit community calling for proper leaderboards and whatnot, I honestly couldn't care about it. Mainly, Blizzard should be focusing on key quality of life features. Things like gold-based auction houses, especially from the Season of Masterworking. They have relied on the Discord community to actually develop their own solution to this problem via Diablo.trade. I was semi-involved with the back end of one of the two sites that were being developed and presented to the administrators of the Discord. At its core, an official in-game auction house needs to be a priority. They are playing it too safe, especially due to the real money auction house of Diablo III. The quality of the game would increase significantly if we can get to an NPC, search criteria the item, buy the item with gold and only gold from other players, and then get the item we want. This is something Path of Exile really dropped the ball on, as GGG opted to house a first-party trading website. So Blizzard really isn't alone in this. As for leaderboards, for example, it should be easy to make, and why they haven't made it is beyond me. It's just a time attack per pit tier database with a pretty package to filter players, classes, guilds, and whatnot. It's not that hard. Finally, on this front of features, it is the little details that matter in games like this. The fact that it took a year to implement something as small as saving the selected temper on a piece of gear is baffling, which is something I was complaining about when the system was introduced. Additionally, the temper charges is a mind-numbing thing altogether. Allowing players to brick an item, it should be a cardinal sin in gaming. Imagine buying via a third-party website on a third-party Discord server a perfect weapon with 3 greater attributes, just a fantastic weapon, only to temper and roll the worst attributes with the worst roll for your class and brick the item. Although they did add a way to reset the charges only once, the fact you can even do it is insane. Additionally, adding an exponential gold charge on tempering is just bad game design, as we already have a gold sink in the form of enchanting. Why tempering also has a massive gold cost is beyond me. The final reason why Diablo 4 is an industry failure is that it just doesn't do anything better. It doesn't make the base game better, it doesn't do seasons better, there's nothing revolutionary about the game or the mechanics or progression systems. It's just a mediocre game that looks semi-decent. Even the UI is overall mid. For example, it's gray on black with a hint of brown, a flat, barely readable font, cost of materials being hidden behind a second panel, the multiple inventory tabs like keys, keys 2, consumes, seasonal, and items. Most things are 2 to 5 button clicks away. Don't get me started on how Blizzard managed to make a worse Battle Pass experience than a normal Battle Pass. What is this mess? Why does the cost of a premium Battle Pass not change based off the completed sections? Why is claiming items a 3 to 4 button process and require you to fetch it from the server and cause a lag spike or delay? Like, how? These are just the few things that I have an issue with in Diablo 4. Don't get me started on the lack of social features in this mandatory online game. Things like seeing only 6 people at any given time except for the 10 people at world bosses. Just give me an option to have an offline version of the game, or like what Diablo 3 did, and give me a shard of an instance on the online game so I don't have to deal with constant lag. To further drive this point, please watch this clip from one of Diablo's largest creators, RageGamingVideos.
And that's with doing one of them, where there was literally no other players in my instance. I was fully solo, so I got essentially every kill related to the event.
There was literally no other players. I was fully solo. This video, linked in the description, was uploaded 6 days after Season 8's launch, with the clip timestamp of 7 PM. How is one of the largest, most profitable companies in history barely able to fill launch week's instances with a seasonal mechanic? On US servers during prime time, remember, this is at 7 PM, where most people are off work or school at this point. Diablo 4 was a commercial success, yes. As someone who has spent literally thousands of hours playing and theory crafting the game, overall, I love Diablo 4 and the community around it. But Blizzard once again has made a fantastic addition to the meh category. Blizzard truly needs to sit and identify the core issues with their game. I fear after Season 5, Diablo 4 has went into a shadow maintenance mode. For those who don't know, maintenance mode is a term in live service gaming where the minimal updates or content patches are provided to try to keep a chunk of the player base engaged. Diablo 3 technically went into maintenance mode right after the release of the expansion Reaper of Souls, as no major overhauls or patches would occur since, only minor seasonal changes. We can see many of the same things in Diablo 4's development, but on a much worse scale, with leaderboards slated nearly 4 years after launch, where players were requesting it since Season 1, between core features that should have been released at launch, poor application performance, core infrastructure issues, and much more, I can confidently say that Diablo 4 is an industry failure. Thank you for watching. Please give your feedback in the comments below, or share your favorite Diablo stories. Thank you.